You've felt it before, that flicker of connection. Someone looks at you, smiles just right, says exactly what you needed to hear. It feels real, warm, disarming. But something's off. And by the time you realize it, they already have what they want. This isn't charm. It's precision. The dark empath doesn't chase. They draw you in. They speak your language, echo your wounds, and offer shelter, all while quietly rearranging your mind. You never hear the door close. You never feel the cage until it's velvet-lined and locked. They aren't cold like narcissists. They're colder, because they understand you. They see you, and still choose to use you. This video is not a warning. It's an initiation. You will learn how to become what the world can't defend against. A presence that comforts, then consumes. A smile that saves, then sways. No lie, no cruelty. Just silence, study, and perfect emotional aim. This world does not reward softness, empathy, kindness, sensitivity. Once seen as virtues, these are now treated as vulnerabilities. If you're the one who feels deeply, who understands pain, who actually listens, you're the one who gets chewed up first. But what if that sensitivity didn't make you weak? What if it became the sharpest blade you carry? This is where the dark empath is born. Not as a predator, not as a manipulator, but as a survivor. Someone who felt too much for too long and finally decided to stop bleeding. The dark empath walks through the world like a mirror, seeing the wounds behind every mask, the fear behind every threat, the emptiness in every loud boast. But they no longer get pulled into the chaos. They use what they see to protect themselves. They don't exploit emotions. They endure them. They carry the storm in silence and walk into rooms like they already know what everyone hides. And in a world built to crush the sensitive, that is a terrifying power. You don't become this way by choice. You become this way because kindness alone didn't work. Because being honest got you used. Because being good nearly got you destroyed. So now, you don't raise your voice. You don't explain yourself. You observe. You absorb. You adapt. You've learned to control your empathy. Not to manipulate others, but to protect yourself from them. Because the more you felt, the more you got hurt. So you stopped trying to be understood. Now, you understand everyone, and trust no one. The dark empath is not heartless. They've just had to bury the parts of their heart that kept getting stabbed. And once you reach that point, you don't come back. You rise, not to dominate the world, but to survive it without being broken by it again. You don't scream to the world that you've changed. You don't post it. You don't preach it. You just become someone they can no longer access. That's how the dark empath rises. Not with chaos. Not with cruelty. But with clarity. Cold, beautiful clarity. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending your kindness. You stop giving people endless second chances just because you can feel where their pain comes from. Because one day, you realize feeling their pain doesn't mean you have to carry it. That's the turning point. You've always seen people more clearly than they see themselves. Their joy, their lies, their loneliness. They've always been loud to you, even when hidden behind smiles and small talk. But before, that insight made you vulnerable. It made you a target. You tried to help. You tried to save. You tried to love without limit. And they used it. They drained you. Not because they were evil, but because you were open. They took what was soft in you and mistook it for weakness. Again and again. And again. Until one day, you didn't break. You hardened. That's when the shift happens. That's when the empath becomes something else. Something sharper, quieter, more precise. That's when you become the dark empath, but not the villain they fear. You don't manipulate. You don't deceive. You don't scheme. You simply stop bleeding for people who wouldn't do the same for you. And that silence is terrifying. You start watching more than speaking. You start listening, not to comfort, but to remember. You become observant, strategic, emotionally precise. You don't call people out anymore. You let them reveal themselves. You don't argue. You vanish. You don't seek closure. You close the chapter yourself. You use your emotional radar not to fix people, but to avoid them, to read them before they can even shape a sentence. To know exactly when someone is lying, flattering, pretending, or probing. You walk into rooms and you can feel what everyone's hiding. You don't flinch. You don't speak on it. You just adjust. And that adaptability, that control, that's what makes you powerful. Not because you play games, but because you no longer allow anyone else to play them with you. You don't seek approval. You don't need to be liked. You don't sacrifice your sanity just to belong. You belong to yourself now. And the world hates that, because most people are performing. They're addicted to attention, dependent on reaction, controlled by their need to be accepted. But not you. You've trained yourself to thrive in silence, to stay calm when provoked, to walk away with dignity rather than cling with desperation. This isn't about being heartless. It's about being heart-smart. You're not shutting down your feelings. You're locking them behind a wall with a code only you know. You observe first. You let people show who they truly are. And when they think they've read you, that's when you vanish from their script entirely. You are not their story. You are the editor. You no longer beg to be seen. You choose who sees you. And in that choice lies your power. The dark empath doesn't need to manipulate. They already know the outcome. They don't need to control others. They've mastered themselves. And in a world designed to exploit weakness, that is the most dangerous power of all. There comes a moment when the war ends. Not because the world stopped attacking, but because you stopped reacting. You're not broken. You're not angry. You're just done. This is where the dark empath evolves into something even more dangerous. Untouchable. You've studied human nature like a battlefield surgeon. You've seen the lies, the betrayals, the sweet smiles masking sharp intentions. You've given people more chances than they deserved. But not anymore. Now, you operate in silence. You move like a shadow. You've built a world no one enters unless they earn it. Not beg, not cry, not manipulate. Earn. You no longer explain your absence. You no longer defend your boundaries. You no longer participate in the drama, the noise, or the guilt games. You've mastered detachment. They call you cold. They say you've changed. And they're right. You have evolved. The dark empath has crossed from emotional survival to emotional sovereignty. You don't chase people. You chase purpose. You chase truth. You chase peace. You've turned your empathy inward, and now it protects you instead of poisoning you. Because the world feeds on good people, being good becomes dangerous. So you stopped bleeding to prove your worth. You stopped over-explaining to be understood. You stopped showing up for those who wouldn't crawl through fire for you. And now you are free. Not the loud kind of freedom. The kind that walks away in silence. No closure. No announcement. Just quiet power. You've learned to smile without trusting, to listen without absorbing, to love without losing yourself. This is the final form of the dark empath. Not someone who plays games, but someone who refuses to be played. You don't expose people. You let them expose themselves. You don't fight for your place. You walk into a room and command it, not with noise, but with presence. They feel it, the weight, the quiet authority, the unreadable eyes. You've become a mirror that reflects nothing back unless you choose to. You are no longer an open book. You are a locked manuscript, readable only to those with the patience, the pain, and the purity to understand your pages. Most won't. And you are fine with that, because your world is quiet. In that quiet, you hear everything. You see everything. You predict everything. You are untouchable. You are not here to be liked. Not to be accepted. You are here to survive, to evolve, to dominate your reality. With empathy sharpened into intuition and silence honed into power, they cannot understand you. They cannot control you. They cannot reach you. You have become what the world fears most. Someone who once cared deeply, but no longer needs anyone to breathe. You are the ghost they cannot haunt, the soul they cannot seduce, the heart they cannot break. They said kindness is strength, that empathy would save the world. But you have lived long enough to know the truth. The world isn't fair. It doesn't reward the pure. It exploits them. It doesn't protect the sensitive. It crucifies them. Those who feel deeply are the first left bleeding. You tried to do it the right way. You gave. You forgave. You stayed loyal. And what did it earn you? Disappointment, betrayal, loneliness. So you stopped trying to be someone's hero. You became your own weapon. That is what it means to be a dark empath. Not evil, not manipulative, not heartless, but strategic, aware, and dangerously self-controlled. You didn't lose your empathy. You stopped wasting it. You learned to read people without giving them a map back to your soul. You trained your mind to feel everything, but obey nothing. You mastered the power of silence. Most importantly, you stopped apologizing for your strength. Because here's the truth. Most people will never say it out loud. The world doesn't care about your good intentions. It only responds to leverage, presence, and quiet power. And the dark empath has all three. You don't scream for attention. You command it by existing. You don't manipulate. You let people reveal themselves and act accordingly. You don't fear abandonment. You choose solitude over foolish loyalty. You don't beg. You observe. You don't chase. You attract. And when you walk away, it's final. This is not cruelty. It's untouchable mastery. You can love, but not blindly. You can be kind, but boundaries are as sharp as razors. You feel, but emotions don't rule you. You've turned pain, silence, and depth into armor. You are the wolf blending into the flock until the moment it matters. And by then, it's too late. The world misunderstands you. They call you cold, calculating, distant. Let them. You need no validation from those who try to break you. You no longer fit in. You build a throne from the pieces they tried to bury you under. This is your power. You became a dark empath not by accident. You were forged in chaos, sharpened by betrayal, strengthened by every time you stayed silent while being torn apart. And now you stand alone. Not because you couldn't belong, but because you chose not to kneel. You see the world for what it is. A game, a battlefield, a stage of masks. And you walk through it, eyes wide open, unbothered, unbreakable. That is why you are dangerous. You feel everything, and yet you play to win. You know darkness, and you do not run from it. You have empathy, but not for fools. You're no longer trying to save the world. You are building your own. And to anyone watching who's ever felt too soft, too emotional, too broken, understand this. You don't need to change who you are. You need to stop handing your power to those who never deserved it. Become the dark empath, the one who listens, understands, and never forgets. The one who no longer asks, only acts. The one who rises alone and never falls again. The world doesn't need more smiles. It needs people who know pain and still move forward. People who wield empathy like a sword, not a weakness. If this resonates with you, this is your sign. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and share this with the quiet one about to rise. Your story isn't over. It's just begun. The world will soon learn what happens when someone who feels deeply stops playing nice. You are the dark empath. You were made for this.